Abbruzzino with the Scoop News. Okay, couple things. It's interesting. After I work out every morning, I take a sauna for 20 minutes, get rid of the detoxifies you and gets rid of the swelling and all that good stuff. And in there, you have conversations. And somebody I surf with came in, and we started talking. And he told me about his weekend trip down towards Inglewood, and then they decided to go offshore. And he basically talked about how one of his friends that was with him, there was a few guys, took all of his crab traps up because they weren't catching anything. They got in the water when they went offshore. They said it stank really bad, that it was really slimy, the discoloration. Then they started going even more offshore, and they started seeing dead tarpon, dead fish everywhere. And he said offshore, and I forget how many miles he said, but he basically said after what he experienced this weekend, he would never go in the water again. And this is someone that surfs. And, you witness it. A lot of us, we think, okay, red tide's gone because it's, 2.5 miles offshore the Bloom. Yet it really isn't gone. And we witnessed it this Saturday. Once you get that westerly wind, you start to smell some. If it's strong enough, it can push it back on shore. I was surprising with some of the news, as some of you may have been, that Moat hired a red tide expert. I thought they would have had one by now. That news came out yesterday. I was really surprising. This picture you see up on the screen is something Rob Merlino took out of the outflow pipes. That's something, we talked in there. We talked about, my buddy and I, about how the offshore drilling platform that's been leaking like crazy in the Gulf, the fact that we can now dump fracking water into the Gulf, and it's happening. The outflow pipes, like this one you're seeing on the screen, and the algae bloom, the algae coming from the Okeechobee release, all this just aggravating the red tide bloom, making conditions worse, and then it goes beyond that where you just got so much bacteria in the water, etc. And it was interesting. The council had a meeting yesterday. And what's interesting about this, and just to preface it, I have been talking and emailing Holic. I know I go back 10 years. I think he said he Googled it, and it's only been like 8 years or something like that. I don't know. But the amount of time is, I guess, 8 to 10 years. Who the fuck cares? I've been doing it. Back then, I remember one of his comments on email, I think it was back in like 2013 or something like that, it was that they put all these outflows through filtration, and it's perfectly clean water. Then I put on a video, which was seen by over 30,000, I think over 30,000 times, I forget the count. It'll be on my website below this video, and you guys will see the link up there if you want to go to that website. Also, I would put a link to all different searches on my website for all the coverage I've been given since I started the website, which has not been 10 years. It's been like 3 or 4, covering outflow pipes and runoffs, like this video you're seeing from Rob Merlino up here. And basically, what he said was yesterday at the meeting is that he's scared, he's terrified. And the exact quote, if I could find it on here, this was from the Gondo. He says, "This scares me," Hawk said. "If it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out, and you know who will be blamed? Us." Well, yeah, Holic, as we now know him as Mayor Asshat Holic, because I've been telling him, and you can go back, I've shared this article numerous times. Back in 2012, both Bob Daniels, who will be running for mayor next year because he's term limited on council member, and John Holic said in this article, or the article quoted them, as basically attributing pollution to those outflow pipes. Then when I ran my video, which is on the website and was seen by over 30,000 people, the next meeting, they actually, like the next day or the day after, they put out a press release saying nothing's wrong with those outflows, it's no pollution, it's perfectly clean water, not to be worried. Then at their meeting, they said, basically alluding to me, that it was fake news and that it's clean. And the city engineer, basically, this Clinch guy said he'd have his kids playing it almost just about, is how he led me to believe that that's that pure of water. Then it came out that they weren't even testing it. So either Holic didn't know when he was sitting there saying that I was fake news and lying and stuff, he didn't know they weren't testing it, or he knew, which I think he did know, that they weren't testing it, and he was just lying to get to. What they do is, like their media personnel, Lorraine there, they tell people, she's actually told individuals this, when they refer to the scoop, that it's fake news and they shouldn't be reading or watching me or going to my page. And I got to tell you, I put out a lot more accurate news than the city does, especially if the city's going to lie and say that that water coming out of those outflow tanks is nothing's wrong with it. So anyways, the city drilled down. There's a new permit coming out, and the permit basically monitors the creeks and rivers, but it doesn't monitor the outflows or the release of the stormwater into the Gulf. And the county basically knows that. They're not doing anything about it. The DPA permit is issued every 5 years. It's to monitor the waterways. It's not to monitor these outflow pipes and the pollution that's coming from it. And the waterways, it could be from anywhere. It could be from the Hatchet Creek runoff. It could be coming from the septic overflows that might occur in South Venice. I put an outflow of them once where it was just dumping into the water. So nobody knows where this flow is coming from. And so nobody in there, even though I've been complaining about it to massive audience, I've let all the public officials know, and Holic, you can check emails, Holic knows about it. You can do a FOIA request. They've ignored it. They've brushed me aside, and now it's an issue. Now Holic's concerned that people will blame them. Yeah, you've known about it. You've said nothing. You've acted on it. Nothing. And I put out something once about Daniels because Daniels has known about it. He was in that 2012 article. He's seen my documentation. He's done nothing about it until all of a sudden he's decided that, hey, I'm term limited. I'm going to run for mayor next year, and this is a hot button issue, and I need to be seen as someone that's active on it. But where has he been for the last 9 years, folks? But our society, the people, the electric, are ignorant. They hired Helen Moore, for God's sake. That lady's like in the pocket of every pro builder out there, and you guys hired her, and that just goes to prove. That's why when I hear people bitch anymore, I'm going to say, go somewhere else. You guys are electing these people, the Helen Moores of the world, and you're going to bitch about building. Bob Daniels said he didn't want to support this program, this monitoring program, unless the county provided understandable data and analysis. And remember, guys, I put out an article basically covering where in a video of Heinz saying, well, wait a second, if the levels are going up, and this was the levels of phosphate, I believe it was phosphate. I can't remember the exact issue, but he said if that's going up and increasing, that's in direct conflict with what we're being told. And the guy from Hands Along the Water said, well, it's coming from your county website. It's right here. I printed up the documentation for you. And you never heard anything else from that. So I put the video up. I put the actual documentation. I put the links and everything. And people still don't care. So you guys, until you start paying attention and holding these elected officials accountable, until you go up to these Holics of the world and say, bullshit, here's a 2012 article, you knew about it, you're a scumbag, you're sitting here acting like you didn't know about it, and you think because we forget everything. And that's one of the reasons he hates the scoop, is because I don't forget stuff. I remember stuff. I show the links, everything. Just like, it amazes me. I did an article once on his business that he started just after becoming mayor. His only customer is the owner of Finn's, Sharky's, and Chinook Haven. There's third-party articles that are pretty reputable where they say they talked to someone within his company. He said he makes $180,000 a year. Everything was documented in there. I went to the state of Florida where politicians are supposed to be forthcoming and tell us what business interests they have. He has not listed that for his last 8 years in office, and it's actually punishable. He can get fines in that, but nobody cares. Nobody does anything. And these guys continue to do this stuff. So until you guys stand up and stop electing the same idiots after complaining about what they're doing and start getting more active out there, nothing's going to happen. This, what you see up on the screen, is going to continue. Until you tell these people of the world, these Hogs and Lorraines, their media person, the Hines, the Mayo, the Dieterts of the world, hey, Frank's providing all this specific data, all this factual information. All you guys are saying fake news without showing how it's fake. We want your asses out. We need to hold them accountable. And screw these 3 or 5 minute sessions where you can go before them and they sit up on their diocese and cut you off and you're done. Screw that. Demand answers now. Write them, email them. Because until you guys do, this is going to continue. And it's sad. It's sad with these politicians and the lack of backbone and people that continue to trust individuals like this lying Holic. And I'm calling him lying because I've caught him in so many lies and exaggerations and non-truths. Nothing's going to be done. So it's up to you guys. All right, everyone. This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with The Scoop.